many people have heard of Amazon Alexa or Google Home? How many people have tried it? So that's quite a difference to when I did this about 9 months ago, and only about half the audience had heard of it, and virtually nobody had ever used it. Amazon Alexa has been in the US for over 2 years, and in the UK since last September, and it's not yet in Ireland, so it's a good reason why a lot of people haven't tried it. But it's changing. Before we had voice interface on tablets and mobile phones, but now it's in our home. So things are beginning to change, and a lot of people might think, okay, I tried speech technology a couple of years ago, kind of sucked, and they think they know speech technology. And I would encourage anybody who thinks that to download the Google app, download SoundHound, try the speech technology, and tell me if you're not impressed. Things have changed. That we've reached a 95% accuracy. So if you did try it 3 years ago, 5 years ago, it was hugely frustrating. It got wrong so often that people just stopped using it. But things have changed. Deep learning is a huge factor in that. And if you try it, you'll be impressed. And if you try it again in 3 months and 6 months, you will see it's an evolution of a technology as well. So just, stay tuned. And again, 2017 was quite a year. Forbes said it was going to be the year of the voice search. CES said it was the year of the voice interface. The Mary Merker report basically talked about 50% of voice searches being searches on the internet being done through voice by 2020. And if you think that's a stretch, Google have said already, and this was July 2016, I believe, that 20% of searches were already done by voice at the moment. So things are changing, and nearly 36 million of those smart devices were sold in the US alone last year. So it's very much a state of play that needs to be watched. And if it isn't in your life, I'd love to ask that same question again in another year and see where people are thinking. So what about the kids, right? I spent, and as Anne said there, my daughter was the inspiration for starting SoapBox Labs, was because speech recognition technology, and I spent nearly 20 years in this area, I have done now, and I worked for IBM Research. I worked for the Great Bell Labs, which are very visible here at Inspirefest this year, working on state-of-the-art technology and speech technology. And I could see what was coming down the line. I could see the advent of deep learning that was going to change speech recognition technology. But it was very clear to me when my daughter was 3, right, this is about 4 years ago, that it doesn't work for kids, and for very good reasons I'll talk about in a second. But that is the difference, that how do you get speech technology into the hands of children who could actually use it? And you might think, yeah, well, okay, why would a child want to use speech recognition technology? So imagine if you could, a privileged child on an iPad in the US, or an underprivileged child somewhere on a cheap smartphone, could all access technology that could help their reading. So if you think about it, voice technology can act as the helpful adult. And if you watch an adult who's teaching a child to read, they're listening, they're prompting, they're correcting, they're encouraging, and they're basically assessing progress. A child who's learning English, and maybe their parents don't have good pronunciation, or they don't have the language at all, but is accessible through a cheap smartphone or the iPad or the internet. If a child who's pre-literate and can't read, buttons and names and links and things, that they can actually use their voice. And it's such a natural interface. It makes sense that it should be used for children. So whether that's a smart toy, it's a game, it's your IoT, it's your Amazon Alexas or your Google Homes, it's voice enabling technology for children is very important. It's just a very difficult problem. And the reason is, adults are not children, and children have very different physical makeup to adults. They have shorter, thinner vocal tracts. If you think about pitch, a man's pitch tends to be quite low, a woman's is overlapping but higher. And then a 12-year-old teenagers, they're kind of overlapping with women, and then as they get younger, it gets gradually more and more different. And then you can imagine, pretty much that's how speech technology works for kids. When you take from about age 12 down, it starts taking a nosedive in performance until you get to the ages of 4 and 5. It just does not work. And behaviorally, children are so different to adults that you have to be able to cope with all those different technologies. So what's out there right now with respect to solutions that pertain to work for kids have been recorded. So AI and speech technology is very dependent on the data. So garbage in, garbage out, it's been discussed a bit for AI at this conference. And unfortunately, all that's available right now out there in children's speech is technology that was recorded in very controlled conditions, in quiet environments, expensive headset mics, and that's how people have tried to build speech technology for kids. But that, on the left here, is actually how children interface with technology today. They're in cars, they're in restaurants, keeping them quiet. They're in homes, and a young child is never in a room on their own quiet. They tend to gravitate towards the adults in the room, which tends to be a little noisier. They're in schools. And if you look at it also, if you think about it, the screens are disappearing. These devices are evident of that. And so the only way to interact with this technology is through voice. It's very important for us to get that right in order for kids to be able to explore it themselves. So at SoapBox Labs, we just talked about this again recently, is that, stick to what you're good at. We're good at speech technology. So what we do is we partner and we license our technology to third-party providers, and we voice enable their technology. Their technology or any products for kids, right? So it's in education, so it's reading, language learning, it can be in IoT, it can be in robotics, it can be in smart toys, and we're talking to people and licensing technology in all those areas. But our technology works in real-world noise environments, and that's really important because, as I discussed just in the last slide there, kids use technology. So if you go and collect your data in a very sterile lab-like environment, it will only ever work in those conditions. If you want it to work in the real world, you have to collect the data in the real world. And on all mobile devices as well. So we have built a data set of 25,000 children's voices, real children from real places in uncontrolled environments across 150 countries. So if you want to leverage deep learning, and deep learning has that massive effect and improvement in accuracy, you need massive amounts of data to do that, to leverage the power of deep learning. And that's what we've been able to do. And through that, we deliver a cloud platform. It's open licensing. We don't require headsets. It works in real-world environments and on all devices. So a child simply interacts with a device, no matter what that device is. The audio file is sent to the cloud, and near real time we respond directly to the child, and it can be given in feedback to the child, and it can be collated later for parents and teachers, or it can be used to command and control. So we license to all people. So whether you're an independent developer, an SME, and a corporate globally, it's a cloud-based solution. We can easily do this globally, and that's a wondrous thing about the cloud these days. So what we do, we enable across all these different things. We can do the reading and language assessments. We can enable progress tracking that's vital in education and assessment across the world. And we can voice command and control. But we use all the same technology to do this. Even though it's across quite different application areas, our core technology is the same. And we're enabling biometrics to allow to be able to identify between different children as well. So thank you for listening.